Evening. I'm guessing it's about 6 o'clock Wednesday, April 15th, and we're going to take a look at the Book of Enoch tonight. But I want you to remember something. Just because you want to justify what you want to believe doesn't make it right or real. So let's remember my goal. Help you have fun with Bible history. Maybe try to uncover some little things that were dodged at church a long time ago as we was kids growing up and probably still dodged today. Well, let's take a look at some of them. Let's find out. So tonight, the Book of Enoch. It's real, but is it credible? And if you just said no, well, then you're not even wanting to listen to the possibility. We know the book is real. We have copies of it. But can we rely on it? And if we can't, why not? So let's dig in. Well, let's start with just a few basic deductions, facts. What is the Book of Enoch and where did it come from? I think it was on the ark. I'm not sure what form, but we know the writing is real. Therefore, Noah must have brought something with him from Enoch on the ark. It's the only way we could have gotten some of this. I want to read you a quote right out of the Book of Enoch. Now, some of this Noah actually wrote. Enoch was the great-grandfather of Noah, and this is the Book of Enoch, chapter 68, verse 1. And I'm going to quote it to you. And after that, my great-grandfather Enoch gave me all the secrets in the book and in the parables which had been given to him. By who, I wonder? And he put them together for me in the words of the book of the parables. Again, we have the Book of Enoch, and this is Noah telling us where he got the book. If it's credible, we can believe it. Let's look at the family line. Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah. And we do have the book, and again, something had to be on the ark. Part of this book, it's even recognized as the Book of Noah. It's in 5 parts, and one of them is the Book of Noah. And the parables, Noah is quoting them from Enoch. These would be the only references that Noah wrote and left something. Why wouldn't the world have some documentation that came from Noah? It was pretty important. God picked him out. And to tell me that there was nothing left behind by Noah, any writings, documentation of anything, hard to believe. Remember our goal tonight. Can we use Enoch? Can we rely on it? Is it credible? Well, let's start with a few things about the Bible. Does our Bible, the Holy Bible, 66 books, reference any other writings that are not included in the Bible? I'm going to give you a couple tonight. Enoch, of course, and how about the book of Jasher? And it might even be pronounced Yasher. Not even sure. But I want to give you a couple of Bible quotes. Let's see what it says. Joshua, you remember him? He was with Moses and left Egypt, and he was a pretty important figure in the Old Testament times. Here's something. Joshua 10, verse 13. Again, you can look all these up later. Joshua 10, verse 13. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? What? So the sun stood still in the midst of the heaven and hastened not to go down about a whole day. Joshua was using the book of Jasher and insinuated that the people of it, the Israelites, were using the book of Jasher. This proves they had access to it, something in writing. They proved it, and they gave it credibility. He said, is it not written in the book of Jasher? Let's try another one. This is in 2 Samuel 1, verse 18. It says, also he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Okay, part of growing up. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. They're following the teachings from the book of Jasher. in the Old Testament. They recognized some of these writings. Just because they weren't put in the 66 books doesn't mean they're just to be thrown away. There's stuff in there. Old day Israelites paid attention to it. They used it as what we would call the Bible. This was part of their Bible. Remember the Old Testament, they were living it. None of that was written down. There had to be something else for them, instructions and such. And here's some pretty good proof of the Book of Jasher and being used. Let's move into the New Testament. There's a couple of things here from Peter. He's somebody we count on, we rely on. Here's a passage, 1 Peter 3, 19 and 20. Quote, "And which also he," this whole chapter is talking about Jesus. You go ahead and read the whole thing, 1 Peter 3. "In which also he went and made proclamation," or preached, "to the spirits in prison, who once were," indicating the past, "disobedient, when the patience of God kept waiting in the days of Noah." That's in the past, during the construction of the ark. Jesus went and preached to the people, whoever, that just didn't follow Noah's teachings quickly, in which he went and made proclamation, preached to the spirits in prison, put away, who once were disobedient, when the patience of God were waiting in the days of Noah, during the construction of the ark. So Jesus went and preached to these people. Who did he preach to? Well, there were people, as we know what people are. In that time there were fallen angels still on the earth, and there were the Nephilim. We'll talk about that later. It says this in the Book of Enoch, and it mentions it here in the scripture. So who did he preach to? Yeah. When did he go and do this? Another story, another lesson, but watch here. Died on the cross on Friday, raised from the dead on Sunday. Where was Jesus? Right, let's move into another Peter reference. This is 2 Peter chapter 2. We just looked at 1 Peter. 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 and 5. "For if God did not spare angels when they sinned," kicked that out, "but cast them into hell and committed them to the pits of darkness, reserved for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a preacher of righteousness, with 7 others, when he brought the flood upon the whole world of the ungodly." Ooh, that says a lot. God didn't spare the angels that sinned. He cast them out of heaven. They were fallen angels down to the earth first, and then we can trace them where God put them in a pit, a cave, a giant cave literally, and until judgment, cast into hell, it said, and committed them into the pits of darkness, reserved for judgment, not the final judgment yet, but they're still there as a matter of fact. But he didn't spare the ancient world, and then mentions Noah. So it's the people again that Jesus went and preached to during the time of Noah building the ark. Oh, by the way, I can find all this in the Book of Enoch, what we just read. I wonder where Peter got that information. God inspired him? Yeah, I believe that. But God inspired him to look at the writings we already had at the time? It's a possibility. You can't just throw it away. All right, let me talk about one more thing tonight. The Ethiopian Book of Enoch. It was believed to be the oldest manuscript of the Book of Enoch, the oldest writings. And you know how this works. The farther back they find writings, the more accurate. Because if somebody writes something down, 100 years later somebody else writes it down, 100 years later somebody else writes it down, stuff gets lost and gets in the translation. The farther they can go back, what they've proven with the Bible and any ancient manuscripts of any type, the oldest manuscripts are the most trusted, most accurate. So we've got this Ethiopian Book of Enoch, and at the time in the 1800s, I can show you something. It was believed to be the oldest manuscript of all. And then we had this discovery at Qumran, the Ethiopian church. It's one of the oldest, maybe the oldest church, long-lasting going church in history. And they recognize the Book of Enoch as part of their Bible, their canon they called it. Now, where did Ethiopia get a copy of the Book of Enoch? Well, this is down, you know where Ethiopia, look at a map, it's way down here south of Israel, and then on the canal, on the water, and right across the narrow canal is Yemen, another country there. And back then, it looks like Ethiopia and across the little canal was one nation. Now, here's somebody from the Bible. How about the Queen of Sheba? Yeah, met with Solomon and all that, long story. That's where she's from. Queen of Sheba, Ethiopia. And we're not sure if it was just Ethiopia or across the canal. The two were one entity at the time. But both would come, she was from the south. It says in the Bible, she would have come up to Israel. So, did she steal a copy from King Solomon? No. Maybe he gave her a copy as a gift. It would make sense that the copy she had that started where their church started using the Book of Enoch would have had to come from what we call the Israelite people now, going all the way back before Israel called Israelites to Noah. Well, we know a fellow named Bruce. His last name was Bruce. He's from England, and he visited Ethiopia, stayed there for a while, and he came back with a copy. He got some help there, and they copied a manuscript of Enoch from Ethiopia. He brought it back to England in the 1800s, and documentation proved that this was the oldest manuscript of all at the time. And then we mentioned Qumran. This is the Dead Sea Scrolls. We love to point at the Dead Sea Scrolls and say, "Oh, proves the Bible." Well, I don't need something like that to prove the Bible, because I just believe it, like I'm supposed to. But this is a big deal. They found all these scrolls in these little caves. You remember the sheep herder threw a rock, goat herder hit in a cave, broke a pot, and they found all these things in the 40s, 46, 7, 8, along in there. Inside these pots and scrolls, they've uncovered every book in the Old Testament except Esther. Nobody knows why they didn't find that. Not just one complete book at a time, but fragments from this cave, fragments from that cave. And there's a whole lot of history of why they ended up in this cave. But there it is. Our Old Testament's found in the caves of Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls we call it. What else was found there? Cave 2 and 4, here's how it's listed, 2-4Q204. It's easy to look up on the internet. Cave 2 and 4 at Qumran, Q stands for Qumran, 204, fragment 204. They got all these fragments laid out and marked. Fragment 204 was part of the Book of Enoch. Yeah, they found it right there with the Dead Sea Scrolls. So you can't pick and choose. If we want to look at the Dead Sea Scrolls and say, yes, Bible proof. Well, wait a minute. Other things were found there too. Do we just disregard them? Fragments, not the entire manuscript by any means, but fragments that the only place they can find this writing of these fragments is straight out of the Book of Enoch. So, and it was 200 BC is where it's dated. This predates the current Old Testament manuscripts of the time. So it is a big deal, the Dead Sea Scrolls. But again, there's parts of the Book of Enoch. So our lesson was, can we actually trust the Book of Enoch? I've tried to show you a few things that make me think, man, I got to at least give this some thought and some serious paying attention to. Maybe there's something to this. So I'm going to end it tonight, and next Wednesday night we're going to take back up on this, part 2 of this. I'm going to show you Jude in the New Testament, Jesus' brother, half-brother. Quotes from the Book of Enoch. It's the only other place his quote could come from. It's the only other place it's written. And Jesus even alluded to it. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to prove it to you next Wednesday night. So until then, have some fun. See you next week. Sunday night I'll put out a little trailer about next